look for the good in everything.
Hey, what's up? This is Jason Mraz, and you're listening to The Steve Hatherly Show on TBSefm.
It always seems impossible.
Turned hobby into a business. I regret it. No, I don't.
Really?
I love it. I love it.
Last time I talked to Jason Mraz, and I don't know if you even remember this, and I won't be insulted if you don't. You were in Korea, I think it was around 2010, and you were here to do a show. You were here for We Sing, We Dance, We Steal Things at the time. And I interviewed you at a hotel in the Gangnam area. It was a super hectic day for you. There was a lineup of reporters outside. You had the labeled people inside the room, and we chatted for about 20, 25 minutes. Do you remember that, or do you not? Tell me the truth. It's okay.
I couldn't tell you exact details. But yeah, my trips to Korea were usually, we usually had those days lined up for those experiences. Right? Yeah.
Well, you're back on the Steve Hatherly Show once again, so thank you very much for joining us. You and I are on opposite sides of the world right now.
Yeah, I'm in Portland, Maine, up on the far northeast of the North American platform. And we're on tour playing, Look for the Good to life. So bringing some warm tropical music along with this tropical storm.
Are those parts of the country that you would regularly get to if you were touring on a regular time?
You know, regularly get to is a tough term now because thanks to I'm Yours, really, our tour path has somewhat been global. And so it's hard to get anywhere regularly. So we just look at the map and say, wow, where haven't we been in the last 3 to 5 years? Let's make sure we go there. So we kind of are running on that schedule right now.
It's kind of an awesome luxury to have, though, isn't it?
It is a luxury. Because I love playing music, and I can get the same rush going to a coffee shop and playing my show there for whoever's in the room. But to have fans that have invitation to say, come see us in Finland, or come see us in the Netherlands or Korea, it's a real honor to be able to take your music and take your joy there.
That was one of the things that you mentioned to me last time, actually, because we were talking about when you kind of became big and the fact that you had started out from humble beginnings, as every artist does, and you were playing coffee shops. But then you told me that even after you became a bigger star, it was still important to you to go back and play those coffee shops and play smaller venues because it was kind of a reminder of why you wanted to do it in the first place. Do you still feel like that a decade later?
Yeah, because you got to keep up your chops. Songwriting is one thing, but then you want to take that song to a stage and figure out if it's really finished, if you've really written it right, but then also you get these chops of like working with an audience in a live room and weaving your songs together, and also stoking yourself out that you're still being creative. So if I didn't do those things between tour, I would go crazy. And in fact, this pandemic was challenging because all our coffee shops shut down. So for the last 15 months, there's been no live shows. So it's been wild to get back out at it and be doing it in an entirely new configuration, which we currently have as an all reggae band. Turning the entire show upside down and doing all reggae interpretations of my old songs, and of course the new album being fully reggae.
Fully reggae. Look for the Good came out in the middle of 2020. Your songs have had reggae touches before. Did you grow up listening to reggae? Were you a big fan when you were a kid?
I don't think it was as far as when I was a kid. I discovered it when I was a kid. My stepdad had a pretty extensive record collection, so I knew it was one of the genres. And I think that's the beauty of being a musician, is that you can actually create and play the music that you love, or the music that you want to learn more about and be intimate with. And reggae got on my radar even more in college, just because of its vibe and its soul and its special effects. But then they're also singing about revolution and oppression, bringing awareness to situations, and spirituality and love. And I like the topics that are all happening in that. And as I got older, it just became even more relevant, especially going into a really challenging year like 2020. So I'd had this dream that one day I would mess around with more reggae music, and it aligned when I met Michael Goldwasser, the producer of the album. It was his invitation. He said, "Hey, I think we should do something together." And the urgency of 2020 approaching, which we just knew was going to be a year of heated debate. And we wanted to be on the road with music that had a message of unity, to basically just shine a light of peace during what we knew would be a challenging year. So that's really what fueled the record, was timing.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it did line up perfectly because it wasn't just the pandemic in the United States. Politically, it was a very tough time for people as well. Is that the general theme of this album, is let's not forget that we're all from kind of the same place, and peace and love for each other is important?
I mean, I wouldn't say it. That's touched on the record, but I think it's bigger than that. I think world peace begins within. So each one of us sits in what we feel like is the center of the universe, just looking out and everything's crazy and we want to try to change everything and save the world. And I think the whole journey of us being here is really trying to find peace and happiness in our own experience, and acceptance in our own experience. And that's what I think is the reoccurring theme on this record. It's look for the good within yourself, to enjoy the ride or have mastery over your nervous system while we're here, because regardless of what year it is, 2020 or pandemic, this or that, music does that for me. So there's chaos all around in all of the world. If I turn to an instrument and play, then I've created a safe little bubble, and suddenly now I have control of my own thoughts, or at least I get to surf on my thoughts and guide them into places that are love and challenging for the brain, like little puzzles and rhymes, and you can tie your emotions into it. And to me, that's a creative art form that keeps me free from all that chaos. And my songs are the product of that. And I'm sure it's the same with anybody who is deep in their craft, whatever their craft is. Once they give themselves to it, that's part of the masterpiece. That's part of you mastering peace and finding calm inside of all the chaos. Exactly. And that's what looks for the good is. We wanted people to look for the good within themselves, and but that's on the deep level. I think on the surface, it's melodic, funky, groovy, and it's lighthearted reggae music.
It's a fun album to listen to. It must have been a fun album to make. Can you talk about the making of the putting together of the album just in general?
Love is the way, love is the light. We light up today, and today is all right.
Well, Michael and I made demos for about 6 months, back and forth by email. He would produce a lot of the music, and I would write and record my vocals at home. I would write a song on acoustic guitar and send it to him, and he would then send it back, treat it in a reggae style. And Michael's very, very knowledgeable on the many subgenres of reggae and many styles of music that reggae has produced through the different decades. And he wanted to tribute different reggae styles. And so as I was writing songs, he could imagine, what sort of orchestral reggae arrangement he could put on this certain song. So after 6 months of that, we put together an amazing band. We spent 2 weeks in my backyard. That I have a little studio in my backyard, and we spent 2 weeks there. The band, we were all too big for the studio, so we had some people outside, and we were trying to stretch amplifiers all over the place so that they wouldn't bleed into other amplifiers. And
how many people are we talking here?
14.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And but we figured it out, and it was all captured by a good friend of mine, an engineer, Jeff Berkeley. And then on our last night of recording, after the 2 weeks, We dragged all the equipment outside and we all played the whole album from top to bottom, and we invited friends and neighbors to come over and listen. And we filmed it, and it's up on YouTube. It's called Look for the Good Life on the Ranch. And what's great about that is that was really our only show, because before we got the tour launched and the album out, the pandemic occurred and we weren't able to do anything. So luckily we had that footage from the recording session where we were playing it all outside, which held us over to where we are now, where we're finally on the road with this band.
How does it feel to be back on the road?
It's okay. I know how to be on the road. I know how to grab my food and sleep in a hotel bed. I'm grateful, and I still take my guitar and I make up songs, and my life is the same. I still feel like I'm 23. But there really was a gift of being home too. And I think a lot of us, hopefully, saw beauty in that, because so many of us commute. Like, my job is traveling constantly. And so to take the commuting out of my life, and I could have more time with my pets and my house plants and my garden, craft, without having to worry about so much how my suitcase is packed. The pandemic was really beautiful in that way. And it was also, took the size of my carbon footprint down quite a bit. So that made me feel good.
Avocados are a big part of the life now. Did I read that? And coffee beans, did I read that too?
I don't know why, but I turned my little backyard hobby into a business. I regret it. No, I don't. I love it. I love it. And then I fell in love with fruit trees, and then one thing led to another. And 17 years later, now we have thousands of fruit trees, and we produce largely avocados and coffee, California coffee, which is very, very exciting. And I get to hire young people right out of college. Some of my best friends work for me, who all just love working with the earth and love agriculture and regenerative agriculture, and ways of working with the land that we believe are helping rehabilitate the planet for climate resilience at this point. It's hard to say climate reversal or something, but I think climate resilience is key now. It's like, how can we adapt to the ever-changing climate? And regenerative agriculture is a great way to do that, with carbon drawdown and kind of just changing the microclimate in an area, and it can be done all over the planet depending on the microclimate in that area. So that's the backyard hobby, and yes, it produces avocados.
But let's get back to the album now. So I'm going through the song, the track list, I'm watching the videos. There's Tiffany Haddish out of nowhere. And I was like, what? Wait, I did not expect to see Tiffany Haddish in a Jason Mraz music video.
Wait a minute, let me stand up for my girls. We never gonna quit till we truly rule the world. Popular folks says we should rule the world.
That's what she said too. And she's like, what are people thinking I'm doing on here, telling jokes?
Right.
A friend introduced me to her, and I was at a Tiffany Haddish show, and I just asked her if she rapped and had any interest in being on this track that was positive, and I was looking for a female vocalist to deliver this potent message that was actually written by a collaborator friend, MC Flo, Abby Dorsey, who's a great songwriter, and we wanted a strong leading woman's voice to take that verse, and she gratefully said yes, almost on the spot, and only a couple of days later we were in the studio together.
Oh wow.
Just so graceful and such a yes, but in a powerful way. She's not yes trying to be nice. She's yes, and then she comes in and she slays it. So it's no wonder she's acting and hosting in shows and performing on records. Yeah.
So you said you're in your hotel room, you're on tour. You said you're playing with your guitar. So does that imply that you're already working on new stuff for the next album?
Yeah. Because now, I mean, it's been 2 years since we made Look for the Good. So I'm ready. Writing the songs is one thing, because it's this constant surprise that's coming out of your garden as you're overturning your thoughts, your emotions, you're mulching your garden. You're awakening new ideas and new seeds that are springing to life. And then the recording process is much like the like summer when things are coming into bloom. You really get to know what it is, those songs you wrote. And then you take those songs to market. That's what the touring period is like. So you're out on the market and you're basically selling your avocados now. You're selling the songs that you wrote. You're sharing them with people. And then winter comes and you go home and you let everything mellow out and you let the earth chill and you chill your body out. So I've been in that winter mode for way too long. I've been writing lots of songs in that spring. So I'm ready to go into the summer mode and record these songs so that we can just, I don't know, just keep getting intimate with music.
Any maybe giveaways on what that might be genre-wise for the next one? Are you going to keep experimenting?
I do want to keep experimenting just because music now is so anything. It can be anything. So there's a lot of trial and error, a lot of experimentation to get there. But I want to make something that's harmony rich, that has solid groove. Like Look for the Good has solid groove. I love this album because every song you can dance to it. And I learned a lot on this about rhythm and percussion, and reggae is all percussion. Everybody's playing percussion, and it creates these really funky grooves. So I want to carry that over into my next project, but continue it to be harmony rich. That's just, I just love that sound of harmony.
How's the response been from the fans on the road to the album? And not only the new songs, but the songs that you're putting a reggae twist on that they already know.
Yeah. My perspective from stage is people are dancing, and that is an awesome feeling. Because as an acoustic singer-songwriter, that's really not been my audience. It's like a sit-down storyteller audience. And then I've had bands and I've done different rock and acoustic rock grooves, but even that's not a consistent dance party all night long. But this show, with it being reggae all night, it's people are jumping up and down and sweating and partying, and I love that feeling. And they're singing the words, and that really also lets us know that this audience has been listening to this record for some time. So that's been really a good feeling which touring and live performance gives you. Gives you instant feedback, which you don't really get in the pandemic when you're just looking at heart emojis and fire emojis.
Yeah, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about the Jason Mraz Foundation, because I think the last time we spoke, did you start that in 2011 when that came?
I did.
Yeah. So tell us about what that is and what the goal is for it.
Sure. I would say for the first 5 years, we had about a vast array of causes we were supporting, everything from climate to assistance in recovery to arts education. And about 5 years in, I decided I wanted to streamline that mission. And so now, since then, we've served for inclusive arts education and the advancement of equality. And we work with arts organizations who are developing and or have created inclusive arts programs, which really serve all to teach empathy and compassion and acceptance. I came up through arts education programs. So without those programs and without donors to those programs, I wouldn't have had the creative free space to learn that I could do all this in my adult life. And it was really the programs of my youth that gave me the tools to be who I get to be. So I wanted to help perpetuate those programs, and specifically those that are advancing equality through inclusivity. So it's been going really, really well, given well over $1 million. And this year during the pandemic, wrote $80,000 to various nonprofits all across the US, because everyone was struggling at this time. But we, regardless of struggle, we just know everybody can do a lot with a little. So we're happy to, and money is generated from the tour. So people do send donations to JMF, which is wonderful. We always accept those, but just by coming to a show, you've already donated. And that really helps us generate lots and lots of money for lots and lots of great causes.
Fantastic. Anxious to get back to Korea someday? You are so incredibly popular here.
I would love to come back.
You remember that I think the first show you did here was at that EBS space, right?
Yeah.
So all the songs we played tonight were from our first 2 records, and but we're gonna leave you guys with a song that's not on any record yet. It's a new one. So open up your mind, see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. Look into your heart and you will find that the sky is
probably one of my first performances of I'm Yours. It was a brand new song for me. But I'm Yours was brand new and I hadn't performed it very much. And I know I remember including it in the set list that night with Toco Rivera, and the response that we got from that program, and then eventually through YouTube where it landed eventually. It really was a, I don't know, like an indicator or like a pivotal show for us, especially, you know, being able to be invited back to Korea so many times since then.
Yeah, of course. But that was not originally on the set list for that night.
Well, the song wasn't released yet. The song hadn't even been recorded yet.
Wow. I never knew this story. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that tour, I was touring my second album, and it was during that time that I wrote I'm Yours and decided to start playing it live that it then prompted me to put it on my third album. Mm-hmm.
Really cool. Well, whenever you do get back here to Korea, obviously everybody's going to be excited to see you again, and that includes us on our Humble Radio program. So hopefully when you do make it back to this part of the world, you can come and say hi and have a chat and give us an update on how you're doing then.
All right. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. If you haven't heard it yet, go check it out and buy it. It's called Look for the Good. It's Jason Mraz's reggae album. I've heard the whole thing, and it is, just like Jason said, it's a fun, dancey, groovy album that you are guaranteed to enjoy. Mr. Mraz, thank you so much for taking the time from, I think you're in your hotel room there, so a really private time for you. So really appreciate the time, and it was great to catch up with you again.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate you taking the time as well.
Absolutely. Be safe, my friend.
All right. Same to you.
look for the good.